Nationwide strike is still on the cards, we're told, as government and public sector unions haven't reached a wage deal. The Public Servants Association says it'll intensify its lunchtime pickets ahead of the main strike, while government is urging unions to get back to the negotiating table. So what's the way forward? And more importantly, can the strike still be averted? For that, let's bring in Mompati Galorale, who's the Public Service and Administration Department's Chief Negotiator, joining us via our video link this morning. Great to have you on the program. Thanks very much indeed for making time. So as I mentioned there, it looks like the stage is set, so to speak, for this public sector wage strike to take place. From your vantage point, is that where we are? Have the negotiations deadlocked to such an extent that even government has accepted that a strike is likely to unfold?
Well, thank you very much, Ayanda, for having us and to the viewers at home. No, well, let me start by saying it is unfortunate that we have to arrive at this situation, which we do not like to see. But it does not mean that we have accepted that there is no room for talks as government. We have even been calling on organized labor that let's continue to engage and see if we can't find an amicable solution to this impasse.
Yeah. The obvious concern, of course, will be around whether or not those talks can lead to government changing its offer. You know, in fact, government has been quite steadfast since the beginning of these talks, even in the lead up to the mini budget that was delivered by the finance minister earlier this year. Are you then saying that because you're open to these discussions, government may very well review an offer that they've stuck to, as I mentioned, since these negotiations began?
No, well, it's not a question of government considering revising its offer. We have indicated to the organized labor right from the beginning of the negotiations that look, it's a situation that we don't like and we want to turn around. That always when we start negotiations, we start after the budget would have been concluded. So our view always remains that let us negotiate, conclude negotiations before the budget can be concluded. So the reason why we are saying we're still open to the talks, we are saying the minister as it stands now, Minister of Finance, has not penciled any figure for 2023-2024 financial year. So let us come and use this opportunity, this period that is left between now and February, and engage and see if we can find each other and then influence what the minister might pencil in the budget for 23-24.
Sure. I don't mean to labor the point, but that obviously means that government is open to making a new offer, obviously, or else what's the point of these negotiations, even in the lead up to February?
Well, the offer will relate to the new financial year, 23-24 financial year. Because for this year, we've already indicated that when we started this round of negotiations, government only had about 20.5 billion that was in the budget. And unfortunately, we had to start negotiations after that figure was penciled in the budget. But as of now, the government has been able to move and increase that finance by about 13.5 billion additional to the 20.5 billion that was in the budget. So we have overstretched the fiscus, and that's what we have explained to Labour, that the current offer overstretches what was there in the budget as 20.5 billion by additional 13.5 billion, which is an indication from ourselves that we have been negotiating in good faith, and due to the process of negotiations, we were able to move the funds around and find those additional funding to fund this offer.
What makes this round of negotiations particularly complex, let's say, is that there's a real trust deficit that exists between unions and government because of how, past agreements have been treated, and this is in reference specifically to the 2018 agreement, which government essentially couldn't keep to because of a whole host of reasons the state has said. How is that making this, a particularly difficult set of negotiations to partake in? Because unions are very clear that they've learned their lesson, they've said, about how much of a concession to allow government, given how they've been treated so far.
Well, one would not deny that the the trust levels are not at where they're supposed to be. But the fact that we were still able to sit around the table and engage, it shows that parties still respect the processes of collective bargaining. And you recall, Ayanda, that preceding this round of negotiations, we went into what we call a public service summit. One of the objectives of that public service summit was to try and deal with this trust deficit. And that is why I'm saying at this moment, we are still able to sit around the table and engage despite those low levels of trust. But at least the respect for collective bargaining process is still there, and we still remain open for engaging.
All right. There obviously has to be something to be said around a contingency plan from government's side if the strike does in fact go ahead. In fact, some reports suggesting that it's just days away. I think I saw something suggesting even tomorrow some unions might be planning to stay away. The effects of this are yet to be quantified, and I imagine government would be thinking about ways to mitigate the worst case scenario.
Well, we don't think there will be that huge impact, given the preparations that we have made, that we have put in place. Though we recognize the fact that labor has the right to strike and to picket, we have agreed with the in particular the PSA that has indicated that in fact they should have started their strike on the 3rd of November as per their notice. But we have already engaged with them and agreed on the picketing rules, that the pickets will only take place during the lunch hour as well as during the tea breaks, and that will minimize in fact, will not have any impact on the work as well as the service delivery. And we have also indicated that any picket that will take place during the working hours, that will then constitute a strike. And then, as we know, the Labour Relations Act is there to protect both the employees as well as the employers. So the provisions of the law will have to kick in if then there's any work stoppage of whatever nature at whatever time during this particular period.
All right, Mompati Galorale, that's where we're going to have to leave it for today. Thanks very much indeed for your time.